In case you found yourself wanting to get up and dance during that piece of music, it's because it was a tango written by the Argentinian composer Astor Piazzolla. The name of the piece is Milonga del Angel. I'm Phil Pletcher, pianist and conductor in the West Michigan area. I conduct the Shir Shalom Jewish Choir. I'm also the pianist at Temple Emmanuel. If you go to services there ever or to a bar bat mitzvah, you will see me up on the bima at the keyboard. I'm also the pianist for the Grand Rapids Women's Chorus, and I conduct the Schubert Male Chorus in town and do a lot of accompanying and solo work as well. And I have a teaching studio, etc., etc., etc. I'd like to thank the Jewish Federation for having me perform this concert for you. It's really an honor to do that. And I'm going to have several different types of music tonight, but there will be some Jewish music written by Jewish composers. And the next music I'd like to play is by the Jewish composer Felix Mendelssohn, quite a famous composer in Europe in the 19th century. He wrote several pieces about Venice, the Venetian boat songs. This is the first one that he wrote, Venetian Boat Song number 1. Of course, this is about a gondola. This piece was written by the contemporary American pianist and composer Jim Brickman, and I'm including his piece of music today especially because he is Jewish. Enjoy his If You Believe. This piece of music is a traditional Irish tune. It's titled here in this particular arrangement, Over the Sea to Sky. If you've watched the show The Outlander, you've heard this because it's the theme song for that show. It's arranged here by the composer and pianist Joseph Martin. He's mostly known around the world for his choral music that he's written and arranged. But before he was a choral person, he was a pianist, a very, very fine pianist with lots of good credentials, graduate school, etc., in piano performance. And he wrote this arrangement of Over the Sea to Sky. I just love it. So here it is. Just in case you're wondering, I've been playing the piano for 58 years. Yes, 58. I started when I was 4 years old. It seems like a lifetime ago. I guess it was. But I started playing little tunes that I had heard on the radio or in services, etc. I would pick them out on the piano, and so the parents wanted to find a teacher right away so that I didn't develop a lot of bad habits, as is easy for people to do when they try to learn an instrument on their own. And so they looked for a teacher. Well, back in those days, 58 years ago, it was somewhat difficult to find a piano teacher who would take someone of my age, because it was felt, the philosophy was among the pedagogues back then, that you should at least know how to read a little bit in order to be able to put the musical alphabet together and make sense of that, the sequencing, etc. So teachers did not want to take me, but they finally found someone who was willing to take the plunge, and she probably didn't know what she was getting into, but I started playing, and I've loved the piano, absolutely loved the piano. It's been my baby for all these years, and it's just, I love to play. Now, the interesting thing about that is, if I'm at someone's house, or even if I'm home and we have guests over, when someone asks me, "Oh, why don't you play something?" That's probably my worst nightmare, because I'm like the proverbial deer in the headlights. I just get scared, and I don't know what in the world to play. My mind goes blank. I don't know. It's like I've never seen a piano key in my life if someone puts me on the spot and asks me to play. Now, if I know in advance like this and I can practice and be ready, then that's a different matter, but don't put me on the spot. It scares me to death. But the reason I'm saying that is people ask me the question, what piece of music do you like the most? What piece of piano music do you really like, you love to play, and you really just adore that piece? You know, that's a hard question to answer, because I have played so many things and I love so many things. I really can't tell you a favorite composer, because it's a different one every day. I mean, my musical taste fluctuates, etc. But I have to say, though, if I would narrow it down to one piece that I absolutely adore, it would have to be this piece that I'm going to play next, which is a piece that's by the composer Johannes Brahms, a German composer who lived in the 1800s. And I love his music. It's so rich, so beautiful. And this piece is part of his opus 118. There are six pieces in that opus, in that work. And this one is the second piece, called Intermezzo. That's opus 118, number 2, the Intermezzo by Johannes Brahms. My next piece is a piece by Jean Sibelius, the composer who is probably most well known for his orchestral work Finlandia. This one is called Romance, and it's just written for solo piano. During the past week, the West Michigan Jewish community has lost a friend who was just a dear person to all of us. Len Robinson, who was a special friend of mine. I know he was a friend to a lot of you out there listening to this tonight. Len was such an amazing person in that he just, as I think back over the interaction that I had with him, I can't think of any time that I heard him speak ill of anyone. I mean, he was just such a positive person. He loved people, and he would help anyone. He would give you the shirt off his back, to use an old expression. But that was just Len. He was such a giving heart, and we will miss him so very much. I know that Len liked to laugh a lot. You know, if you were around him very much at all, you know that he liked to tell jokes, especially like Sophie Tucker jokes and some others that I probably don't want to say in this program. But he was full of humor, just really liked to laugh and liked to make other people laugh as well. One of the best stories I remember about Len is actually a true story. It's not a joke, but when he was a young man, when he was in college, he tells that he had a roommate who was an evangelical Christian. Of course, Len being Jewish, they were rather at opposite poles. And but Len says that this roommate of his was the president of the Campus Youth for Christ, or whatever the organization was called. And Len really liked this guy a lot. I think he must have thought he was cute. But anyway, his roommate asked him if he would be willing, because he knew that Len was very good with finances, and so he asked Len if he would be willing to be the treasurer for the group, because they needed someone to do their finances to keep their books. And so Len agreed, just I think so that he could spend some more time around this guy. Well, the guy still did not know that Len was Jewish. So all went well for a while, and then one particular day, Len was talking to his sister, I believe, on the phone, and she started talking about celebrating a holiday that was coming up, and the roommate was listening in, and Len got off the phone, and the roommate said, wait a minute, he said, your sister is celebrating a Jewish holiday? Is she Jewish? I mean, do you have different, like, are you half brother and sister, or what? And Len, of course, had to out himself and say, no, I'm Jewish. So I'm not sure how long he lasted as treasurer of that group after that, but I just love to hear him tell that story. It was so much fun. Len liked musical theater. Len liked theater in general. As you know, he was very involved, helped to start Jewish Theater Grand Rapids. And so this next piece is something that I'd like to play in his memory. It is, first of all, by a Jewish composer, George Gershwin, but it is also a piece of musical theater. It's called They Can't Take That Away From Me. It's from Shall We Dance, the musical. And I think especially of the words, the song is ended, but the songwriter wrote, the melody lingers on. So these words are very special to me tonight, because we'll never forget Len. We'll never forget the things that he taught us, the things that he laughed with us over. Thank you, Len, for all you've done for us in your life. They can't take that away from me. There's an old saying that my parents used to quote quite often at home for us kids, and that is, laughter is the best medicine. My dad was a joker. He really liked to say puns, especially. He would come up with these crazy puns off the top of his head, and we would groan a lot of the time, but he really liked to laugh. That was one thing about him, even though he was a strict evangelical Christian minister. We'll talk about that some other time. But anyway, Dad liked to laugh. And I think in this time of pandemic, a lot of us are finding that, it's really weird being closed in. It's just, we're not used to that. I'm a person who really likes to be on the go. I like to be out there moving around. I'm just really happy if I'm in downtown Manhattan with the crowds. I'm more at home with crowds than I am being all alone at times. That's just my personality. So this has been somewhat difficult for me, this whole pandemic. And I think also when we're cloistered with each other, you start to see things that, start to wear on you a little bit, and, you get a little irritated, that sort of thing. I get irritated at things around the house. Things are a little bit out of place or whatever. And it's just been a really difficult time for us. But I keep thinking back to the thing that my parents used to say: laughter is the best medicine. And so, I've watched some shows. I happen to like the show South Park, and I've been watching it a lot, just laughing at South Park. And don't watch that with your kids who are under age 16. But anyway, it's just such a fun show, and I like to laugh, and I think that that's important. And I really say that to you today. Take time to laugh. Take time to enjoy life. Take time to watch something funny. Just let yourself go, and that will really help a lot. This last song today talks about that a little bit. So this is called Laughing Matters. Life at 5 and CNN keep us all abreast of breaking stories that can tend to make us anxious and depressed. Problems with no answers hang on like some chronic cough. And every day some brand new issue rears its head to piss you off. Bad guys win. Optimism's wearing thin. Things are spinning out of control. Cynicism's all the fad. World events could make us mad as hatters. Almost every day, some underpinning slips away. These aren't laughing matters. Time bombs tick. People keep on getting sick. And a nickel's not worth a cent. Wickedness and greed abound. Just as peace is gaining ground, it shatters. Hate is here to stay, and justice goes to those who pay. Friend, these aren't laughing matters. The truth is scarier by far than anything that Stephen King could write. The stories in the paper are the daily small decline and fall, spelled out in black and white. Oh, what to do, what to do, how to take a brighter view when your noodle's totally fried. Human spirits need to be leavened by a little levity, so take those blues and bounce them off the wall. Don't you know it's times like these that laughing matters most?